Hello, I'm Tom Knox, the founder and CEO of CareFamily, and I want to welcome you to part 2 in our 3-part series about seniors and depression. So let's talk about some of the serious symptoms of an elderly person who becomes depressed. And I want to talk about 5 of them, and they're things you really have to look out for. And when I talk about them, I want you to determine, as you're watching your senior loved one, it could be depression, or it could be a medical issue that you need to talk to the doctor about. But I think there's 5 clear ones that we often see when someone's depressed. And the first one is they kind of stop eating. And that involves a couple things. I experienced this with my own grandfather, where he didn't want to cook anymore. He didn't care about fresh food. He was eating very much late in the day. He didn't want to make himself breakfast. And I think because he was depressed, in his case he was eating alone, he really stopped eating. And that's dangerous on a couple levels, because he wasn't getting the nutrition he needed. He was losing weight. He actually became a fall risk. So when people get depressed, they often don't cook or don't eat what they need to. The second is kind of that excessive sleeping. A lot of times people notice that mom or dad is sleeping a lot more. They used to wake up early in the morning, and it's okay as people get older and they get a little more tired to be sleeping more, but you kind of see it creep into very late in the morning, maybe a long nap in the day. They're going to bed, maybe after dinner, but they're just sleeping a lot. You want to watch that. Number one, you want to talk to the doctor. It could be a medical issue. But also, when people get depressed, they sleep a lot. And with seniors, you want to watch out there. Next is kind of the hygiene issues. Okay? What do we often see with hygiene? Well, a lot of times when people become depressed, they're not as interested in changing their clothes, taking a bath, or bathing well. And there's a couple different things about that that are important. Number one, I noticed with a family member, they were wearing the same clothes every day. But when I brought my kids into the situation and we were doing a lot of different things, boy, they would change their clothes and their clothes looked, pressed, and they looked very presentable. But the fact they were so depressed and feeling like they were at home a lot, they weren't bathing and they weren't dressing correctly. Now, what can that lead to? By not bathing and not, doing the kind of things you need to do on a hygiene side, people can get into a lot of issues. Urinary tract infections or other things that can cause health issues that can land someone in the hospital. So you want to be watching for that sign as well. Let's talk about that thing about visitors and being a shut-in. We often find that people who get depressed stop wanting to take visitors. And they'll just say, I'm okay, I don't need to see that person, I'm not feeling well. You start to hear them canceling appointments where someone is supposed to come over and have lunch or take them to the store or take them out for a cup of coffee. And all of a sudden all that changes. And they're saying, I don't feel well today, I don't really want you to come over. And you notice a pattern. Well, oftentimes that's depression. So that's, again, another good time to intervene, to stop by, maybe even to still go and try to talk to that person. But that's a real sign of depression. And the last one is anger. And it often can be uncharacteristic of this person. I have a loved one who I could tell got depressed. They ended up in a facility for a period of time. And the whole demeanor of this guy changed, where he was much sweeter with kids and with his daughter. He became a really angry guy. And it's because he was depressed and he was mad of what had changed. And it did come down when we had a doctor talk to him to he was depressed at his circumstances. So you may see a little bit of an anger or a different type of attitude that's very uncharacteristic come out of their mouth, and that could be another sign of depression.